podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Well, we missed the chance to record after, yet another stirring, triumphant, Ronaldo-inspired comeback in midweek.
Well, yes. I mean, he is, as we were messaging, inevitable, isn't he? At this point, I did think after he scored that, I don't know what minute it was in, where just the inch perfect low volley. Would you call it low volley? It was on the volley, wasn't it? From Mason's sort of pass. I did think he was trolling you because, you express your anger with Ronaldo and all he stands for and has done frequently.
Yeah, exactly.
And he just keeps banging them in.
He's utterly brilliant at putting the ball in the back of the net. I just said before we started recording, he's Duff Beer, the cause of and solution to all life's problems, or United's problems in this case.
Yes.
Anyway, no, he's obviously I really shouldn't have to clarify this after 500 something episodes, but I would like to clarify. I don't genuinely believe Ronaldo to be the cause of all Manchester United's problems much.
No, I think he's caused a very specific problem for United, which is, and as was widely advertised, United or Ollie wanted United to play a higher line, higher pressing game, more front foot, and because of the security that Rafael Varane brings, and he really wanted Sancho to play the sort of Jordan Adots football that Bruno is brilliant at inspiring. And then 2 days before the transfer deadline, 3 games into the season, he's dumped with Ronaldo, which means you cannot play that high pressing game. You just can't. I mean, and yesterday was a perfect example. Manchester City just played very simple triangles around every time United tried to press with 2 or 1 of the front players, and it was just so bloody easy for them. So Ronaldo has created a problem. He scored 9 goals in 12 games, which is hard to argue with, because he's utterly brilliant at putting the ball in the back of the net, but not much else.
If you get through the Champions League group stage, it will be because of him scoring goals in crucial moments as well. Like, that's the thing that's exceptional talent-wise. Like,
yes, absolutely. That point is really vital, because now United can lose a Villarreal and beat young boys and be through. So, and without that point, probably that wouldn't be the case.
And he scored the winner in the 3-2, and he's proven at the very, very highest level for an incredibly long time. He'll go down in history as one of the best players ever, and maybe the best ever big game goal scorer guy. I don't know about big game goal scorer guy, but he scores a lot of goals in big moments. Anyway, that just feels like 1,000 years ago now, as midweek games tend to.
It really does. It really does, because whatever United did in that game in Bergamo was eclipsed by the horror show that we saw at Old Trafford.
The other thing about that game in Bergamo is most of it was a horror show as well. Like, that's...
Yeah, so the first 45 minutes in particular was absolute mess at the back. And coaching defensive positioning and how to defend is the easy part of the game. That's the bit that all coaches go to first, because coaching the repetitive movements and repeated patterns of play going forward is much, much harder. So hard, in fact, that Ollie has just decided never to do that and just to leave it to the players to make it up as they go along. Which is all well and good if you put the ball in the back of the net, which they didn't do against City.
As well, just briefly about Atalanta, that he started with the back 3 again. And we said, we've got to take our dubs where we can get them, right? This show is a long lineage of saying stuff that turned out not to be true in the future about games that were coming up. But I think we both said that Tottenham performance, the 3-0 win, it's not like United are back, baby. Oh, woo! This was Tottenham are terrible.
No, I had... Exactly. I had no confidence that meant anything at all, other than United were able to beat a team that didn't want the ball.
So he played the back 3 again. He started with the back 3 again, and then Varane went down because he's been rushed back from injury to save his manager's job. Too harsh? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But look, there's the briefing that came out afterwards, which your mate Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News reported that there was no reaction. He was fit. It was all perfectly good. And then there's the very long history of Ollie mismanaging players' injuries. Very, very long history of that. And he's just come back from a muscle injury and then got a hamstring injury. I mean, they're all connected, folks. If it looks like a cat and it purrs like a cat, it's probably a f***ing cat.
Isn't it? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck normally.
Oh, I don't know. I just went for cat.
Like if it looks like an elephant and does that noise with its trunk like an elephant, it's probably an elephant.
Probably is. Anyway, so I don't have very much confidence that Ferrandi wasn't related to his previous injury. And the back three lasted a game against Tottenham and 38 minutes against Atalanta. And then it came back. But not really, because in the game against City, it was a flat back five.
Yeah.
They were not pushing the wing backs forward at all, ever. And that was actually very, very easy for City to play against, because they were able to use their wide fullbacks to pin United's back, and they had an outball all the time. It didn't matter. They could switch it from side to side all of the time. And United were just shifting laterally across the pitch to try and defend it. And there was always going to be an overload. It just happened to be, it was João Cancelo. And he created chances before the goal, didn't he? And that was 5 minutes into the game. I mean, I'm not a qualified coach. I'm just a bloke on the internet yapping away that some random people listen to. But I'm looking at my TV going, this is up. I can see this is wrong.
And he's got Mason Greenwood man-marking Rodri, which is his kind of one tactical innovation that was clearly designed to stifle the play at source for City. But
it was, but they just played around that.
You need to back that up, because if you're gonna shut off, I mean, first of all, I think it's a lot to ask Mason Greenwood to have the kind of technical competence that's required to man-mark someone. That's not an easy job. I mean, we think of in that last Fergie season where he put Phil Jones on Fellaini so that he could practice ahead of putting Phil Jones on, was it Messi? No, it was Ronaldo. Right, sorry, one or the other. It just doesn't happen very often in football that you man mark, and it's a complex job. And Rodri he just always had an easy pass on because Greenwood wasn't supported by the rest of his teammates in the kind of space squeeze that you need to make man marking their number 6 an effective tactic.
Yeah, try playing a rondo 3 against 1. See how good that'll work. Yeah, it just doesn't. And City have that all over the pitch all the time. So look, I half get what he's trying to do. He's trying to he's trying to like narrow the pitch by having 5 at the back and make City play in front of United, which they have struggled with. Yeah, they've got, I think it's 6 times this season out of 14 games they've failed to score, which is quite high. And they have all this possession, they create chances, and they're trying to walk into the net. And you can kind of see that. You can kind of understand the thinking on, well, let's cut the quarterback off, and so they can't get the balls into the spaces between the lines because they have lots of players who, Bernardo Silva kept dropping out of the false 9. Foden was absolutely brilliant about finding the half spaces, as he always is. So I kind of semi-understand the thinking, at least on the defensive side of things. I'm like, how are United going to score with this? How are you going to put any kind of pressure on? As soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, City are going to have 75% possession. You think you're going to... It looked like a non-league side playing a Premier League side in the FA Cup. That's how United set up. And that was pathetic. And this is Manchester United, who finished second last season, got 3 world-class players, or close to it, and are supposed to progress them. We're reduced to doing that. Desperate stuff.
The one thing that I would say in slight mitigation is that the Bayern goal after 6 minutes scuppers the plan, but the plan didn't change meaningfully after that.
It did not. So, I mean, it did rely on, if you're going to do that, it did rely on not making those stupid individual errors. And there were 2 of them that cost the goals. And I suppose you could say, well, hey, Solskjaer's plan would have worked but for that. But that was the biggest 2-0 battering I think I've ever seen.
That's the thing I was going to say. So when the first Liverpool goal went in the other week at a similar time stamp, it's like, oh, this is going to be ugly. Now this, I didn't think this was going to end up being 5 or 6-0, because City, this was easy. They just didn't have to push that hard. They didn't have to waste energy destroying United. And I mean, there was a little period at the kind of 75th minute mark where I was thinking they might regret not getting a third when they were completely on top, because if we snatch one, they'll be all vibes and atmosphere and Ronaldo, and it could happen. It didn't, and it didn't deserve that to happen again. There's a couple of little things. I don't know quite when to say this. I'm just going to say it now because it popped into my head. After the match, I didn't watch any of the post-match coverage because never has my TV been turned over or off. It was off because I went straight out, off quicker than after that game. But I saw a quote from Roy Keane after this game, and I actually thought this was despicable. I thought this was a dereliction of duty on Roy Keane's part. He said, I'm paraphrasing here. I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying these words, because you probably just spin the Roy Keane what you think he would have said after this game generator, and yep, that's exactly what he said. These players lack fight. They don't want it enough. Like, if these players lacked fight and didn't want it enough, it would have finished last season 7th. Like, they had a 50-match unbeaten streak away from home, going behind in something like 40% of those games, because these players want it, never stop fighting, never stop trying. Like this, it's the
I don't buy it at all.
It's such an insult to the players, and the thing that it's really an insult to is the intelligence of the people that are watching, because it is them just defending their mate. Like, this team, they don't deserve that kind of criticism. That they
deserve other criticism, but not that one.
They deserve a bit of understanding that they're trying to make something work. That it's their reputations. It's like Solskjaer's reputation would be in the mud, but his reputation's in the mud with anyone there's nobody who's like really smart and sophisticated about football that thinks Ole Solskjaer is a smart, sophisticated football brain. Like, there's nobody like it. These players are getting their reputations hammered because they're being sent out on an absolute fool's errand to set up like that against City. Like, I actually think you can play with a back three, and Van Gaal said this the other day, didn't he? You can play with a back three, and it's a perfectly good attacking setup. It's not defensive to play with a back three. It's defensive to play with a back five and put your second centre forward man marking their number 6. That's a defensive system. If they were trying to play on the counter, they're trying to play on the counter with who? Like, who are you expecting to do the countering? Rashford's on the bench.
That's what I was saying earlier. I mean, I just didn't think there was any plan to do anything other than try and defend. This is why it looked like a non-league team versus the Premier League team. But you're absolutely right about Keane. It's so reductive in the analysis that their heart, you can see, Bruno's broken after this. Ronaldo was broken after this. You know, the players do care. All those comebacks, they care. That's not the problem. There may have been previous iterations of United post-Fergie where I might have bought into that kind of reductive analysis going, there's a few of these don't really want to be at the club. But Ollie has spent 3 years cleaning house, and I'm pretty sure almost all of the players on the pitch and in the squad want to be at the club. They want it. They want to succeed. They believed with Ronaldo coming that their chances of succeeding were increased. But they've got a manager who was willing to, I think, protect his job by just losing by a few and not by 6 or 7, because it might have been untenable. The higher-ups don't want to fire him. There's no other plan at the moment, right? They are all in on the Ollie train. Even as it's careering off the tracks and over, the bridge into the ravine, they're not going to get off. And I've lost my train of thought.
It's careened off the tracks, and
it's careened. Yeah, so has my train of thought. But the point I was trying to make is that I don't think it's about heart or passion or anything like that, or spirit. And this club, sorry, I keep taking the piss out of Ollie. It's mean, but it's about a manager who understands how to get the best out of this group of players And as you said on the group chat, isn't it so damning that one team looked like they were coached and the other didn't? And I know that's become a meme, but it's just true. We all have eyes and we can all see
This
it.
is the thing that I was thinking. I never would have had the gumption to actually do this, and no one would, because they probably wouldn't still be able to go to the next one. But a journalist at press conference afterwards should have asked Solskjaer, doesn't it embarrass you, the disparity in how much one team looks like it knows what it's doing and the other team doesn't? Because as a fan, I'm not really embarrassed on the behalf of oh, I'm a United fan, they've disgraced me and it's affecting my life choice. So I'm not going to be embarrassed because United are crap. Like, that's a stupid thing. There's so many things you can be embarrassed about. Don't worry about that one.
Haircut, clothing choices.
Yeah, exactly. But like...
what you said after the 8th pint of beer the other night, that kind of thing.
What I said after the 8th pint of beer, the last time I had 8 pints of beer, which would have been 1999. But the idea that Solskjaer isn't embarrassed by that is like, he really, 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 he personally should be. Like, that at this point, like, we can talk about systemic failures, we could talk about squad balance, we could talk about all these things. He's been there so long and they don't look like they've got a clue what they're supposed to be doing. And those both goals from massive individual errors, right? The Bailly one, listen, I don't think you can really hammer defenders for trying to get a foot on the ball and it skews into the net. I think that's...
No, the real error there was Bruno not closing down his man. But I won't have a go at Bruno, but that was pretty criminal.
And sure, for the second one, now that's worse, because sure at that point has just completely switched off at the back stick. And I saw somebody saying on Twitter that, like, fans just assumed it couldn't possibly be a goal, or it was offside, or it was a dead ball or something, because of the extent to which Shaw switched off. There's no way this could be a goal situation. And like, it was kind of horrifying to watch it unfold. There was a little period of play. There was one passage of play where United actually looked quite good in between the two goals. There was like, it started with Wan-Bissaka on the right and
Bailly stepping into midfield.
Right.
There's the one time they disrupted City's midfield. Bailly stepped into midfield and from that ended in the shot that Ronaldo had with on the volley with his left that was saved. I think that's the one shot United had on target. They only had 4 touches in the City box.
And you look at that starting 11 and you go, well, this is a starting 11 set up to have 4 touches in City's box, even if we don't go 1-0 down after 6 minutes. And then when we do, and he doesn't make any changes, and then just the kind of the way he uses subs in these situations, like, I don't know. Just...
I mean, we were chatting at half time. I was like, look, he has to take off a centre back and bring on Rashford. I said, I mean, it doesn't matter, Sancho, Rashford, whatever. It had to be a forward that would be able to give United some way of getting the ball out. And so that was the right choice. And then the weird thing was that Sancho got into lots of spaces that he gets into the half spaces in between Rodri and City's back four. And they weren't able to find him. You know, he's having a tough time, but I look at him and I think he's the jigsaw puzzle in the wrong place, basically. And United is trying to, ram him in, and he needs to be elsewhere. And part of it's his adaptation, but I think a lot of, against City, was the United players not finding him in the right, or not being able to, or not. We're not. So many of the balls were coming out because United was so deep with this flat back five, and they had 2 sitting in front, and Bruno was having to come back into midfield and help. So many of the balls were high risk coming out of defence, right? You're having to play the kind of balls that you'd want to play in the final third, because the risk reward there is you get a chance. The risk reward having to do that in the defensive third is that you turn over possession, which United did over and over again.
And Moyes lost his job when we lost 3-0 to, I can't remember which way round it was, 3-0 to Liverpool, 3-0 to City. And both of those were absolutely embarrassing losses. There was a huge, gaping disparity between those teams. And that was a United side that had won the league the season before. And this is a United side that's being destroyed by Liverpool and City in back-to-back weeks, 2 weeks apart, when City have won the league the season before and Liverpool have won the league the season before that. So maybe that's a slightly different scenario. But I was very glad when Tottenham appointed Antonio Conte, because I don't personally want to go on a ride on the Conte train for the next couple of years. I can understand why there are United fans that would have been completely fine with that. But for me, I really, really, really think that, I think I said this last week, but I really think that whoever's United's next manager should be someone who's building on the good things that Solskjaer did and adding the thing that he can't do. Because I think Solskjaer has done some really good things at this club, but it is, I mean, I suppose he's not going to lose his job because it's not clear who they want. Maybe Pochettino's not happy in Paris and they'll get him in the summer or whatever, but it's going to be a long time between now and then. There's going to be a fevered baying for Solskjaer's blood for much of that time.
Yeah. So I was chatting to a friend of the show, Garav, about the game, and he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing him, so sorry if it's not quite correct. He was saying, look, if and when Solskjaer goes, we're going to lose that sort of reconnection between the club and the fans that Solskjaer brought, and the good vibes type thing. And I do understand that. I want Ollie to succeed desperately because he's Ollie, and he scored that goal in '99 and all of that, and he's a questionable human being for reasons we've discussed in depth on this pod. But good vibes FC, I want to continue. But that it wasn't that way round, right? The board didn't go, hey, what we really need is for the club to reconnect with the fans, and we need to bring back United DNA. That was a story they attached to Ollie having a successful first 12 games and then giving him the job permanently, right? The narrative fit the things they did, not the other way round.
I think they hired Solskjaer and Phelan. To me, that was like a very kind of overt attempt to make it more United-y, because Mourinho was so un-United-y.
But it was only supposed to be temporary.
Sure.
And United had a short-term run of good form, which we now know 3 years in is just very bursty under Solskjaer, isn't it? And then they were like, up the Reds. And anyway, I've sworn
so many times
on this pod already. It's my quota for the season, I think. Anyway, so maybe we're going to lose that, but it's and maybe Conte wouldn't have been the right choice because of that, and because of what he tends to bring, the chaos that he brings for a couple of seasons before departing. Either way, whether they go Conte or Pochettino or Brian bloody Robson, it doesn't matter in a way, because there's no vision. There's just nothing from the top, right? Other than how do we make money? So whoever they bring in will probably be more competent than Ollie, because, hey, the Peter principle is firmly in effect here. And maybe we'll get better results on the pitch because the club still generates bucket loads of cash that it can go spend, hopefully, in a reasonably less haphazard fashion than has been the case for many of the years post-Fergie. But it's just like, is there anything linking these things together? Right? There's nothing linking these things together.
Well, no. Here's the bull case for that, though. One, I would say that this is an argument that lots of people that wanted Mourinho to keep the job made, that it doesn't matter who's in charge. It does matter who's in charge. Liverpool, everyone talks about like Liverpool's amazing structure and transfer business. Everyone was talking about how the transfer committee was not working properly, and then they brought Klopp in, and it has a transformational effect because he's that kind of manager. I'm not. That's not the entirety of my argument, right? So the rest of my argument is that it matters immensely who the person sitting in the manager's seat is, who the person that is trying to make the best out of the squad. Because I do not believe, there's the thing of like who'd want the job or whatever, but I think there's so many managers who would look at that squad and go, my God, I could do something with that squad.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to be clear, I'm not saying it doesn't matter who's in. I think it's a key position. Clearly, it matters a lot, right? But who gets that job is not coming from a place of we have a strategic vision for this club on and off the pitch, and we know where we're going, and we're going to put all the pieces together. And of course, we're going to make mistakes, but we believe this is the right way to get from A to B, right? Which is what City did very well, which is what Liverpool did very well. Now, that can still be pretty well. I mean, they've gone on a budget that is smaller than United's. They've won the European Cup and the Premier League.
But isn't that just because they appointed Jurgen Klopp? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't believe that's...
And got the right players.
But how much of them getting the right players is like the fact that they got the exact right players? Because a lot of those players, when they were signed, United fans wouldn't have been clamouring for them to come to United or whatever. You put the players in a manager's hands who knows how to like work with players, get the best out of them, has a system and a plan, and it's all very clear.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't know the weightings.
Yeah.
Probably there's someone much smarter than me could work out how much expected goals difference there is on, because you do with players. Actually, you can. Your Smarter Scout do this very well. They attach a value to a player for expected goals per 90, both for and against, and can then give an up weighting. Yeah, it's modelled, right? I don't know how much difference it is with a manager versus some other executive in the club, but I do kind of believe that all the pieces do need to fit together to give you the best chance of getting everything right. Sorry to, some friends who messaged us on Instagram. Likely, if United had the right pieces in place, they wouldn't have spent £52 million on Fred. I'm just picking on him because he was dreadful yesterday, and he's a dreadful player for that kind of money. And why not? Just as an example of where you might go wrong. Anyway, I think the reason why we're so frustrated and we're talking around in circles a little bit, because that was for me worse than the Liverpool result. Liverpool was chaos. That was planned. That was a manager going, if I lose 5-0, there's no way I'm keeping my job. If I only lose by a couple, it's easy for Woodward and co to go, well, it's Manchester City. Look how expensive their squad is. They've got the best manager in the world. Anyone can lose 2-0 to them. They did this to Chelsea the other week. And so it's not that unexpected, easy to brush it off. When in reality, this was a pub side basically playing City. And it was the individual mistakes. Yeah, sure, you can write those off. The approach, the pathetic approach, is much, much harder to forgive.
Yeah, Maguire said they maybe lacked a bit of belief. So it was put to Solskjaer in a post-match interview. He looked pretty shocked. I wonder whether the fact that they lack belief might have something to do with the fact that they were set up in a way where we couldn't work out how they were going to score a goal, barring a set piece or a worldie from someone.
Thought experiment. If you took the City, Liverpool, Chelsea and United squads and jumbled around the managers, who would win?
Well, I mean, I did think in this game, because the players get so much stick. Fred gets so much stick. McTominay gets so much stick. I did think this game was such a good example. If you put the exact same players up against each other with 6 years of Pep coaching on one side and 3 years of Solskjaer coaching on the other, the results would have gone the other direction. I just really genuinely believe that. Like, this is not about a disparity in quality in squad, because City have got a brilliant squad with loads of brilliant players, but in general, their brilliant players are in similar positions to our brilliant players, and we've got easily enough, of all their kind of attacking riches. We have, I mean, the most incredible array of attacking riches at United for 15 years or something like that. Maybe not quite 15, but a long time. This is a team that is being very, very, very badly handled, and it's on I don't know how you arrest that. I think the fact that he made as you described it, the wild swing in the direction of the kind of low block back five as a reaction to how badly things were going, how badly it went against Liverpool. And that has been so comprehensively taken apart, by the way, both against Atalanta and against City, because the difference in those two games is largely the quality of opposition in the two games, right? That's why we were able to get it back into it against Atalanta and we weren't against City. So yeah, I think it's I think he's done out here, but it might limp on for a while. And I really enjoyed the early Solskjaer era tremendously, and I really had a lot of hopes for how this season would go under him, and him proving that he's got another level in him. But instead, it's just gone really badly wrong. And yeah, so I guess he's not going to be around for that much longer.
Well, we'll see. International break. I mean, there's often the time clubs change manager. I would be shocked if United change. I
mean, we were shocked when they sacked Mourinho.
The noises are that just not.
We were shocked when they sacked Mourinho. We were absolutely shocked when they sacked Mourinho.
Yeah. All righty. Well, it's the international break next, and that means I guess we'll be talking about international football, or we, the football community, not we, this pod, because we don't do that kind of thing. So there's a respite. Many of the players will go off to play World Cup qualifiers and whatever. Not Mason Greenwood, who pulled out of the England squad. It's weird stuff going on there with Mason Greenwood in England. Yeah. And Gareth Southgate said something really weird, that he's got to nail down a position at United, otherwise he might not have an England career. I was like, he seems to be playing quite a lot of games at United, actually.
He seems to, yeah. Anyway. And all of them, in the same position.
Watford next.
All of them in the same position as well. Apart from yesterday, he's played wide right every time he's played all season, basically, right? That's anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, Watford up next. I guess there's no point us doing a real preview because it's in 2 weeks' time. But they're not exactly going great. They lost to Arsenal today and got beaten by Liverpool. And how many games had Ranieri? Is that just the two or three? I don't know.
He came in
3. Well, he's got a couple of games to save his job then, because the Pots are already lining up the firing squad, aren't they?
5-3 or whatever, 5-2 against someone, didn't they? Yeah, but then we play Villarreal, and then it's Chelsea, Arsenal, Crystal Palace. So Chelsea away, that's a horrendously difficult fixture all the time anyway. Arsenal at home, like depending on what direction of travel the Arteta Solskjaer vortex is, they're ahead of us they're 3 points ahead of us in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean we're fortunate that Spurs and Brighton didn't win this weekend. I mean, Brighton, late goal against them. They were totally dominant against Newcastle, and otherwise we'd be down in 7th or 8th, something like that.
Palace have been impressive. I mean, then it's Young Boys, Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, Burnley, which sounds like the kind of run you give a new manager to me. So I wonder.
It's really weird because I don't have it. I'm not in the know. I don't have any like inside sources at the club. I haven't bothered to cultivate them because, what's the point? Other people do that much better. But those who do know something are saying that they are sticking with him and they're going to ride it out. And maybe that's a smart calculation. Maybe they are waiting for Poch after fluttering their eyelids at him for many years, and they'll finally make that appointment.
The 2 appointments were close between Pochettino. I mean, at this point, Pochettino should just string them along and then go, I'm not taking this stupid job. Should have given it to me the first time around, you muppets. I mean, no guarantee of success there, of course. But there's
of course not. Yeah, and you can kind of understand why PSG is not like City, right? It's a bit more chaotic in terms of its politics. And he doesn't get on well with Leonardo, apparently, and he wants out. And they forced him to stay by triggering an extension in his contract. So it would be surprised to nobody if he leaves in the summer. I mean, they're miles ahead in the French league. They'll win that at Cantor, and it's really about the Champions League. Yeah, who I don't know. I don't know, but it's any other elite club. The run United are on would be terminal for the manager. 100%, especially getting battered by 2 rivals in successive weeks. I mean, Villa have just dispatched with Dean Smith, Dean Smith, who you cut him in half and it says Aston Villa inside him. And they look like they're making progression. They sold their best player and they've lost a few games now, and it's been a bit of a difficult start, but the direction of travel had been very good, and they chopped him anyway.
Yeah.
Daniel Farke just got sacked at Norwich, and we'll go into more detail in the backers content. And they just gave him a new 4-year contract, and then they fired him after the first win of the season. I mean, it's a brutal business, except at United, apparently.
And there's something to be said for having faith in a manager and all these kinds of things. It's really important. But, and before the Tottenham game, the briefing was that there was no concern that having Solskjaer around would negatively impact the players' ability to win that game, basically. But he's going, are we game by game? Well, since then, there's been a really, really flattering 2-2 draw where we were dreadful for most of that game, including Paul Pogba. As painful it is, he was absolutely
dreadful.
He was
dreadful.
I just want to say that in the interest of balance. And then a 2-0 thrashing at the hands of Man City, an absolute shellacking 2-0. A 2-0 where I thought they might need to get a third, but they didn't even slightly need to get a third because there was nothing in the tank. And
Gary Neville said they were toying with United. That's polite.
And then he said, but Ole Solskjaer should keep his job forever because I like him.
Yeah, pretty much. Paraphrasing. Yeah.
Anyway.
I do like how people call Neville out constantly, and he's just refusing to engage. He's such a politician about it.
It's a dereliction of, it's not really a duty, but at least it is really awful how bad these pundits are at that kind of stuff. Like Neville in particular, very, very good on a bunch of stuff. But Gary Neville, I saw someone tweet, "You should stick to politics, Gary," which made me really laugh. He's so bad on managers. He's just absolutely appalling on managers in general. Never assigns any responsibility to them for anything ever.
No. Well, he had 4 games or whatever it was, 7 or something at Valencia, and it turned out to be a lot harder than perhaps he thought.
But no, I just think it's been just only ever managed by Ferguson. He's kind of lacks the imagination to realise that other managers might not be as good, and that's why Fergie won everything ever forever. So yeah. Anyway, Fergie was around at the training ground after.
Getting a suit fitted, we were quickly told. Yeah, absolutely no way was he coming in to have crisis talks and give Ollie a little pep talk or anything like that. Yeah, he needed to go to Carrington to get his suit, not at Taylor's.
I love Alex Ferguson, and he is the best ever football manager. But anyone that listened to his recent United podcast episode would probably not be clamouring for a return to the dugout for the 80-year-old, and nor should they.
No, they would have Brian Clough going back to Forest vibes about it, wouldn't it? Where he was even further gone. He couldn't even work out where the dugout was.
No, that was Ron Atkinson.
Getting it. Was that Ron Atkinson? I'm mixing up batshit managers, aren't I? I think we've run out of things to say.
We could just talk about this for a long time more, but we'd be saying versions of the same thing over and over again. I don't think there's much more to be said about the nature of the game itself. It was a performance that the coaching staff as a collective, whoever's coaching whoever, because I heard something about that quote that I said surely can't be true. Where it's okay, well, maybe it could be a little bit more true than I would have given it credit for, which is absolutely
just unbelievable
crazy
stuff. Anyway, we're going to do backers content now, and I always enjoy talking about football. I'll watch anything and talk about football. I was on the Man on the Post pod this week, chatting about football. I don't think there's been a backers content I've less wanted to do. I didn't want to watch any football. I got up at 5:30 in the morning to watch United get humiliated. And I really mean that in the truest sense of the word. And I didn't want to watch anything else. But there's been a lot of stuff happening in football, so we're going to go through all of that.
Things that have happened and why they've happened, but not the actual football, because neither of us should watch the kick. I've had the Milan derby on in the background. It's 1-1 at the moment. Inter had a penalty saved. It's cracking, absolutely cracking end-to-end Sunday night Milan derby. But yeah. All right. So, backers, stay tuned for us to talk about Farker and Smith and Conte and Nuno and all that kind of stuff. Everyone else will see you after the international break. I misspoke earlier when I said this was after this. I'd have 5 shows left. I forgot there was an international break. 4 shows left for me after this one. We are on the countdown to a brighter, better future for this podcast.
Oh no!
All right.
Maybe we'll get you back as a guest pod some point in
next
2023
season,
or something like that.
United again this season after we finish this.
When your gardening levers run out.
All right, Brill. Thanks, everyone.
Right, see you, everyone.
Stay tuned, Patreon folks. So, welcome to the We Haven't Watched Any Football Manager Sacking Backers special.
Which manager would you like to talk about first?
Well, let's start with the biggest. Let's talk about Nuno out, Conte in.
Yeah.
Which is very, very, very interesting. And I wonder, I find this fascinating in all sorts of ways. The chances of it working out seem extraordinarily remote to me. I don't know whether that's just missing something obvious, but I think it's very interesting that they acted as quickly as they did, considering they hired Nuno
4 months ago
in the summer, and he was manager of the month in August, and he's sacked in November.
And they're not exactly in a terrible position. So there's something going on. I mean, obviously the fans are not happy. They don't like the style of football, but it's for all the good press that Levy has gotten for managing this club, he's made some daft choices. I mean, it's pretty bad hiring Mourinho, and you follow it up with 9th choice mini Mourinho. It just is an extraordinarily bad choice as manager, and so he was never going to be a good fit because he just we've seen Wolves, right? We've seen Wolves when he played their very negative style. They got some decent results. When he tried to open it up a bit, they were dreadful. And you know what you're getting with Nuno. It just didn't seem a good fit. Conte's different in that he has produced success everywhere. He's produced success when he hasn't even had tons of money to spend. When he took over Juve just after Calciopoli, and when he took over Inter, although they did spend some money, of course. He's produced results. He produced results at Chelsea after a mess there as well. The car crash that you see coming with him is that his demands are extraordinary, right? And he's famous. And it's one of the reasons, who was it? Was it Andy Mitten or Gary Neville said this week? Yeah, what we'd heard was the demands he was making, I guess through third parties, of not only, his position, backroom staff, and specific spending in the transfer market were more than we could accept. So are Tottenham going to change their business model? They run that club on an even keel. They made more profit pre-pandemic, right? Last year, financial accounts pre-pandemic, they made more profit than any club in Europe. Now, that was juiced a little bit by their run in Europe and all of that. That was the season they made a Champions League final, and they looked to be right on the up. But they run that club on an even keel. Now, even if you took those financial results and said, okay, add new stadium, so 100 million match day income per year, plus NFL games, plus other stuff they can do with that stadium, they are nowhere near the other members of the big six in terms of revenues, or free cash flow that they can spend on players, right? So that's a long way of saying the car crash is coming between Conte's demands and what Tottenham can reasonably serve up in the transfer market.
I wondered whether they acted really quickly because they were worried about United sacking Solskjaer and getting Conte in. I genuinely...
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I did wonder whether the Conte signalling his interest in either job was to smoke United out. It actually seems to be the other way round, doesn't it? United had no interest.
Oh, no! I've gone to Tottenham by accident.
Yeah, that's right. That's when a player turns up at Manchester Airport thinking they're signing for United and they've signed for City. Nowadays, they'd probably be happy with that. But in 2008, one famous Brazilian turned up thinking he was signing for the other club. So goes the story.
I mean, he thought he was signing for Chelsea, to be fair, unless you're not talking about Rubinho.
No, I was, yeah. The even better one, of course, was Berbatov, who might have been signing for City only for Fergie to kidnap him at the airport.
Yeah. The question of whether this is going to be successful is a very interesting one. The main reason that I didn't want Conte at United was that he signed Ashley Young on purpose
and Sanchez
and
Darmian
and well, Darmian, I think I'll give an exemption from the rule, but Ashley Young is a fine professional. Very enthusiastic and hardworking and all these kinds of things, which is all the stuff that he likes. I mean, he likes players who just get their head down and do what they're told. And I just think that's not the kind of manager that is going to get the best out of the current United squad, essentially. I think you need someone who is kind of capable of coaching attacking patterns of play, but also really encouraging expressive individualism.
Yeah, no, he would be the complete polar opposite. So Solskjaer's good vibes only. Let's not bother with the coaching bit. It's a bit getting in the way of the fun. And Antonio Conte is none of the fun. All of the, you will stand on this blade of grass when the ball goes in this direction. Mathematical formulas for how you play football.
Yeah, and United have Bruno Fernandes.
God, can you imagine what would happen to Bruno under Conte? Look, he's been adaptable. He's been proven to be tactically adaptable. So I don't want to suggest he'd only play 3-4-3 and nothing else, because he actually started out playing a 4-4-2 at Chelsea and then worked out that didn't fit. And so let's give him his due there. He might not play a straight 3-4-3, but there's no place for Bruno in a 3-4-3.
No, absolutely. So anyway, I'm quite glad he's not come to us, but I do think the point you made about Levy is extremely well made, because this is why it's such a shocking. Mourinho seemed like a shocking fit because we saw what a busted flush he was. They lost 3-2 to Venezia this weekend, by the way. Fact fans. And you best believe I looked that up, especially in case they'd lost, so I could talk about it and wouldn't have mentioned it. If
Paul removed himself from the internet because doom scrolling is not good for your mental health, except for doom scrolling Mourinho results.
Hey, that's not doom scrolling. That's the opposite. I'm going to wear my Venezia shirt that you sent me tomorrow.
It's a cool shirt.
Beat Roma. Yeah, it's a cool shirt. But that signing seemed like a bad signing because he seemed like a bad manager by that point. Conte is definitely not in that boat. I just am absolutely shocked that Levy wants to give himself this headache.
Yeah.
I mean, it's himself he's given the headache. I mean, I guess he thinks the players need a bit of a kick up the backside, something like that. Maybe they're planning to sell Harry Kane and give Conte the money to invest however he wants. Although,
yeah, who knows?
Who's paying big money for Harry Kane now?
They'd buy your hand off for 120 million right now, wouldn't they? And it's interesting how much it's Levy's made this decision and how much is Fabio Paratici, the director of football, and like is Levy less day to day than he once was? But I presume he's signing off on all of this, as presumably Joe Lewis is as well. So there's still direction coming down. It seems to be a club that's lost its way, where it has huge potential. That new stadium adds tens of millions to their revenue potential. I mean, it's got a lot of debt attached to it as well, but it will do for them what they want it to do for them.
If you were a Tottenham fan, the amount that you would miss Maurizio Pochettino, it's just like, considering he didn't win anything, they must miss him like, I don't know, some other club might miss a manager that had like won a lot of stuff. You referenced post-Fergie today. I do think we need a moratorium very soon on the phrase post-Fergie United, because a third of the entire time that he was at the club has passed since he left.
Yeah.
Like, it is 9 years since Alex Ferguson left. 9 long years. The 11-12 season.
Yeah, I know you're absolutely right.
Penultimate season.
Yeah, we are harking back like Liverpool fans once used to do, and like we mocked them for doing. I mean, of course we are, because it's been mostly doom. This podcast is 9 years of doom.
Yeah, it was nice when we won the FA Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah,
under Van Gaal.
It was.
That was nice.
Good times.
When Rashford made his debut, then when he scored them 2 goals against Arsenal, that was good.
That was good. That's good memories.
When Patrice Evra scored against Bayern, and we were all happy for 30 seconds. That was good
times.
Yeah. It is an extremely, extremely bold move by Tottenham to say, okay, we're going to spend all summer trying to get a manager we want, fail to get any of the managers we want, hire a manager we don't want, give him the bare minimum of time. As soon as there's a hint of it going wrong, we're going to get rid of him and hire one of the managers we actually do want. I wonder what's changed in Conte in the ensuing months, because he turned Tottenham down in the summer.
Yeah, I mean,
they tried to get him in the summer.
I'm sure he's not desperate. I mean, the man doesn't look for funds. I don't think he needs to work. I'm sure he wants to get back into work, but he's still considered a top coach. There must be opportunities coming up. I think 4 or 5 Premier League managers have already been sacked this season. There will be big club opportunities for Conte. So he must have been promised something. I just don't know. I don't know how that fits with how Spurs run their club. I mean, are they now going to run this club at a loss to fulfill Conte's needs? Big gamble.
Yeah, very big gamble. Because what you're trying to... When Chelsea won the league, there wasn't an established... I mean, that was kind of in the phase where City were winning the league once and then kind of having the next season off. But the league is completely different. It's a totally different proposition because you have 2 incredibly good teams in this league. Like City and Liverpool, it's horrible, isn't it? Like that's where we were at. City and Liverpool are both really, really good teams with really, really good managers. They're going to take some beating. Chelsea look like they might be close to being a really, really good team with a really good manager. And, and United only need to swap out, some key personnel. And they're now talking about, our squad is 1,000 times better than Spurs.
It should be fun. I mean, last on this, if Conte does what Conte does and fashions a really good team out of that squad and somehow gets Harry Kane back on it and all of that, because they do have there's some talent there, and Newcastle go spend £500 million in the transfer market or whatever. It could get a bit tasty at the top of the league. We might not even make the Europa Conference at that rate. But anyway, so
just give me just a couple of seconds mentioning doom scrolling, because when you do a little search on Google and then it gives you like a banner of headlines underneath. I'm just going to read you some headlines that my latest search has resulted in. Venezia 3, Roma 2 highlights. Oh, that's fine. That's good. Next one. Andrew Shevchenko, new Genoa boss to face Jose Mourinho's Roma in first game. Oh, interesting. Jose Mourinho berates Roma players and Serie A's referees after Venezia loss.
Of course he does.
Mourinho turns on Roma and referees. I have to protect myself.
Oh, he actually said that. Wow.
Yeah. The numbers behind Mourinho's crisis at Roma. Oh, it's so nice. It's so good.
Where do you think he'll rock up next after the freaking family finally realizes the mistake they made and fulfills the Mourinho business model by firing him?
Someone will take a punt on him. Surely we are now looking at Qatar or somewhere along those lines. Like, surely it's going to be big money somewhere that, there's no particular respect for.
Okay, so somewhere there isn't big money is Norwich, who, as I mentioned on the main show, gave Daniel Varga a 4-year contract extension in the summer after he got them promoted. Again, they didn't really spend any money on players. Again, sold their best player, Buendia. And then on the day he gets his first good result of the season, first Premier League win of the season, fire him. Apparently preordained decision to fire him. It would have been funny if they'd won like 5-0 or something.
The whole thing is very strange. The one thing that they were saying on the Tifo podcast, because Joe's uncle is a Norwich fan, that there is this kind of like bubbling around this time of like, okay, like it's just the same over and over and over again, and really obvious fixes not being made and slightly strange selection decisions being made. Ryan Hunn was saying on Wrighty's House and not playing Billy Gilmore for some reason. Even though, like, why wouldn't you play Billy Gilmore if you're going to have him on loan? So maybe it's just one of those things where you could kind of take the long view and say, okay, well, he's got them promoted twice, and okay, he's probably going to get them relegated twice, but who you want managing them in the Championship next season? But also, he might not have wanted to do that cycle again, and maybe it's just one of those where it's all just gone a bit ugly a bit quickly. And you give a new 4-year contract in the summer, you lose enough games. Football, the relationships in football clubs change, don't they, really quickly when you lose a few games in a row.
Yeah, I wonder what Brandon Williams thinks about it, because a loan can make or break players, young players, and we know what talent Brandon Williams has. He has the raw talent to challenge either of our fullbacks for a position. That's what we want. We want him to develop this season and come back in better shape. I don't know. Ollie doesn't seem to have a lot of faith in him and maybe there are reasons. But playing in a struggling team in the relegation zone, almost certainly getting relegated, and with another manager who knows what he thinks of him, it's not good ingredients for a successful loan, really.
It's interesting when you take a manager like Farke and you wonder what's his reputation going to be like after this, because they played the best football in the Championship for, both of the seasons they got promoted. They got promoted comfortably and just were a really good side at that level. And yeah, he lost his best player this time around, but they didn't lose so many of their best players the first time around, and they weren't able to make any dent on the Premier League. And you have players that's their level, right? And then so maybe you have managers that's their level too. But having said that, coming up for the Championship, not spending any money, giving your manager a 4-year contract and then sacking him is weird. It's no way to run a football club, is it? Do one on the other.
As you said, Ranieri vibes about that one. The other new appointment, and talking about, I talked on the main show about having a vision, right? Like managers are different. You don't have to appoint the same manager over and over again, but you kind of hope that there's some kind of view about where you're trying, the direction of travel you're trying to make. Could you get two more different managers than Eddie Howe and Unai Emery? I mean, completely different in vibe, approach. Emery apparently turned Newcastle down. Wasn't sure about them having the right, repeating reports, so no inside knowledge, but wasn't sure about them having the right kind of vision or structure at the club. They don't have a director of football, and decisions are being made, it seems, by a couple of financiers who have a minority stake in the club. So I can kind of understand why a serious man like Emery might turn that down in the middle of the season. But then you go to Eddie Howe, who's been out of work for ages and whose last major impact on football was getting Bournemouth relegated. So
there's such a harsh description of Eddie Howe's time at Bournemouth. That's the guy that got them relegated, right? Yeah. He's also the guy that took them up through 3 divisions. And,
he did, but that's not, Newcastle's job one, a short-term job, stay in the division, because the investment, quote unquote, or the sport washing project doesn't work very well when they're in the Championship. No. So, wishing them good vibes, not. Anyway, so it's just, I mean, maybe he'll do a good job. Maybe he'll be able to turn this around quickly and they'll get some funds in January.
Has he got the job?
He was at the ground at Newcastle's draw with Brighton yesterday, sitting next to Amanda Staveley. So it would seem, unless they're just randomly good mates, it would seem that that is the case.
It's an interesting job for him to take as well for the kind of his next job, because obviously he did an absolutely amazing job at Bournemouth. That was an absolutely extraordinary. It's one of the great managerial feats of there's Ranieri's Leicester, various others, but it was an extraordinary managerial feat.
Yes, and I was being very clear when I talked about him getting them relegated, because yes, I did. Yeah. I did miss out all of that. Although there is that saying about all football managers end in failure, except Fergie, of course. He ended, winning the Premier League title, but everyone else ends in failure.
Yeah, but he really struggled when he left Bournemouth, went to Burnley, and then came back to Bournemouth, really found his feet again. And that was his club, top to bottom, absolute kind of, he had a kind of unique position in football at that club. And I think that last season where where they got relegated, he got burnt out. It looked from the outside looking in like he was burnt out. The pressures of in the Premier League and all that kind of stuff, because they'd stayed up 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Before that, I think, maybe even 3. And obviously, they were, they had Russian money and all that kind of stuff by the end. It wasn't, I'm not saying it was a fairy tale or anything, but he did a remarkable job. This is a very different job, but he did build a culture at Bournemouth, and that is the job here. And I think, in a way, Emery is a more kind of let's see what we can do with the squad we've got and a few decent players and see how we go for a couple of seasons. Eddie Howe is much more of a right, let's root and branch, look at this club and where we want to take it and what it wants to be and all of those kinds of things. He has done that job before. Yeah. Whether you can do that in
the environment of Newcastle, I mean, it's they clearly don't have the right structure. They have not replicated Manchester City. yet, and it's short term, but you would think that one of the first appointments would be the general manager, director of football. So they have an interim CEO, no director of football. Decisions being made either from Riyadh or PCP Capital Partners, none of whom have any real experience in football. So yeah, maybe Eddie Howe will be able to, in that environment, do a great job. Maybe it's just a short-term appointment before they can appoint inevitably Jose Mourinho for the 22-23 season.
I mean, that is genuinely a possibility at this point, isn't it? Although if you want to build a culture and you get Eddie Howe to quite build like a positive, optimistic culture for a couple of years and then bring Mourinho into... Anyway, I guess whether I think that would be a good idea or not. The final manager then to talk about, well, talking of Eddie Howe, Dean Smith is sort of somewhat of a parallel in a lot of ways, because he really rebuilt that Villa side who had been desperately struggling to get back into the Premier League and failed, 2-3 seasons? They were out for a good while, to the point where you're like starting to think of them as a championship club, which was unthinkable for such a long time, because, you know, they were one of those teams that had sort of famously never been relegated from the Premier League. He got them back up and kept them up. Then they lost Grealish. I mean, we talked at the beginning of the season about how well they'd spent the Grealish money in advance and what a good season. So I was talking earlier about us talking about stuff in football and then it not turning out to be true. Well, that's a really good example of that. I mean, that seems to be... I know they've lost 5 games in a row, but what are they going to do next? Like, are they really going to upgrade on Dean Smith at Villa?
I mean, I don't know, and it doesn't seem that they have a plan particularly, and maybe there's something behind the scenes, because look, 5 games in a row is tough. They've had some tough fixtures in there, though. I mean, sure, they lost at Tottenham, but an up-and-up Wolves side who are playing some decent football and getting some good results under Bruno Lage. Arsenal, who've blown hot and cold, but looks like they're moving forward. West Ham, who've been great this season. Southampton, maybe not. But, you know, there's fixtures they could have lost in there. That it's hard to say, hey, that's long-term rot. And he's integrated several new players. Their bet was that they'd replace all the goals and assists that Grealish offered with this, you know, range of players. It's the Moneyball approach. And it hasn't worked out for them. But they're not in desperate trouble. They've lost a lot of games, but they've also won some. And it seems they pulled the trigger very, very early on Dean Smith. I don't know whether they have someone lined up or not. I haven't heard or read anything in the media to suggest that's the case. So, yeah.
No, I mean, so they're 16th in the table on 10 points, which is the same as Watford, which that's bad. I was just having a quick look to see if their kind of underlying expected goals metrics were not good or anything. Like were like if he'd been unlucky in that regard, but it doesn't look like that's the case at all. I guess it's one of those things where when you support the club as well, you'll often get this, won't you? Where from the outside, like I remember a Leicester fan talking about Ranieri. Saying, I totally understand why this seems insane to everyone outside the club, but we're getting relegated if he stays in the job till the end of the season. So, you know, you feel it sometimes when you're a supporter, don't you?
They've also been unlucky. Yeah, Danny Ings getting injured, Ezra Konsa getting injured. I mean, they've had some players out that have disrupted what they wanted to do as well. So anyway, like time will tell whether this was desperately needed or they pulled the trigger a bit early. But this was of the firings and hirings this week, this was probably the bigger surprise.
Yeah, so even though we haven't watched any of the football, just very briefly talk about a couple of interesting results. I mean, Norwich got battered on expected goals, but beat Brentford. I mean, battered on expected goals. Chelsea battered Burnley on expected goals, but drew 1-1.
And probably if Lukaku had been fit, that would have been a comfortable win.
Yeah. Palace smashed Wolves by the looks of it.
So isn't this is like the story of the season so far, isn't it? Just what the transformation from Palace under Hodgson to Vieira, who, like, with his managerial record, has no right to be like a completely transformational manager. There's no signs of this.
Well, the thing I think that Andy Brassel was saying is that there's definitely been good periods at his previous clubs where it's looked like maybe he was doing something and not that he was doing something and then it turned out he wasn't, but like that there was maybe some promise there after all. And well, I mean, he's doing a genuinely remarkable job. Brighton returning to a position of smashing a team on XG and not winning. Very comfortable and familiar position for them. But then I guess the most significant, I mean, Burnley drawing 1-1 with Chelsea at Chelsea is extremely significant. But the most significant and surprising result of the weekend, David Moyes' absolutely extraordinary West Ham United beating Liverpool 3-2. And Moyes' West Ham United are third in the league at the moment. And absolutely deserve to be there as well. That's the other thing. Like, they have been excellent.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think I've said this before, but the fact that they've reinvented them, he has reinvented his approach to football, I think should be inspirational for other managers who are struggling to find a new chapter. Basically, what I'm saying is maybe don't just do the thing that definitely doesn't work over and over and over again. Like after a match, maybe throwing all your players under the bus and saying you need to protect yourself and, you know, things like that.
Doesn't work, does it? Yeah. I was reminded by someone on social media of the banner that Liverpool fans had, David Moyes, football genius. Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he was, after all, the chosen one. He just needed time. If he'd had these 8 years, he might have fashioned a good United side.
Worth saying at this point, the backers content is almost as long as the main show, which sort of sums up how we feel about United's week, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there, and hope you enjoyed the chat about firings and hirings, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
I would imagine that quite a lot of these people would rather we'd been talking about a different firing and hiring. I can only imagine. But...
Yes. After Watford 3, United 0, we'll talk about Ollie's firing then, shall we? Anyway, have a good one, everyone. Enjoy the football. England versus, I can't even remember, Andorra or something, maybe.
Talking of England, I can't believe there's been an entire T20 World Cup and we haven't talked about it on the backers content whatsoever. Just Butler's 100 against Sri Lanka is one of the best things I've ever seen in any sport.
Any sporting context, just absolute genius at work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that'll do. It's T20. It's not real. No, it is. Look, T20 is so good. It's so good. It's not actually been a great World Cup, but even with that, there's been some incredible moments of skill. So, yeah. All right.
All righty.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
See you soon.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.